So along the way, we have to pay some bills around here. Microphone isn't free. My grandkids need stuff too. So you'll be hearing from sponsors and supporters of the show, and I appreciate all the folks who listen to the program and make it such a hit. I appreciate you joining in. So without further ado, we will start the conversation with Vida. Thank you for coming to the program. Tell a little bit about who you are, what you do, and you'll go and give us just an update and let us know who you are. And then Camden, and then we'll swing back to you again.
Then we're going to swing back.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Vida Williams. I have been in Richmond for 22 years, although that does not yet qualify me as a Richmonder. No. I understand, because I did not graduate from a Richmond high school. However, I think because I've given birth to 3 high schoolers here in Richmond, I could at least be somewhat of a Richmonder. But I am an East Coast girl, hailing most directly from North Carolina, where I graduated from Duke University all those years before those 22. Now I do data geeky stuff, and I get to teach students at VCU and the Da Vinci Center as their innovator in residence. And I get to travel around the country meeting the execs and telling them what to do with their big data quandaries.
All righty. Well, thank you for that. So Camden, please tell us how you got to this point with On the Mic with Mike, how you ended up here today.
Okay. Well, Mike found us on Broad Street. I am a faculty member in the School of the Arts at VCU. We partner with the Storefront for Community Design, which is a community design access center that makes design services available for people who would not normally have access to design services. I have been on the faculty in VCU Arts for 35 years. I'm a native Virginian, grew up near Danville, a little village called Tight Squeeze. And
Tight Squeeze. But we got to go back to that.
I was going to say, I'm more interested in that.
We will go back to that.
When someone says where you're from and you say Tight Squeeze,
that's a bigger story. Yeah. That's a much bigger story.
We buried the lead with that one.
So the Mob Studio partners with Storefront for Community Design. We've done this since 2012. And we have 3 design departments that the Department of Interior Design, Fashion Design, and Graphic Design that take on projects that come into the Storefront for Community Design. Our students then, we form teams of students to work on projects. They work with a professional mentor, with the MOB faculty, and with the staff of Storefront to complete those projects in the community. So it's one of those win-win-win situations in the sense of our students get a lot of experience in the city. They get to know the city. Storefront gets a lot of extra design assistance from our students, and the city gets better design, which ultimately we think makes for a much better city.
So I was going to go to you individually, but what I'd like to do is talk about the place that VCU holds. So Brian Bostic from Startup Virginia was in before. And I've been in Richmond for 5 years, and I've seen, coming from a college town, it's really insulated, which is Penn State. But here, VCU is right in the middle of a big city. And I'm from Philly. The model of Temple and VCU and Philly and Broad Street is uncanny. I mean, it really is. So when we look at VCU now, it's like this powerhouse of innovation. How did that all come about? And so you guys are at the professor level, at the leadership level, talking about that. Is it something that's been last 5 years that you've really seen or felt the buzz, or has it been longer than that?
Well, in my experience, I started working within the community in the late 80s after VCU had presented a master plan that proposed basically tearing down Oregon Hill in the city, and I got involved with the Oregon Hill community at that point, oddly enough, working to have the university move somewhere else or grow somewhere else. And so from that point, I stayed involved. We helped craft a master plan for the Grace Street businesses And that master plan then became an integral part of VCU's new strategic plan, which had them moving north to Broad Street and to Marshall Street, but also making efforts to preserve the Carver community. So that's where it goes for me. That was when Dr. Trani was still the president of the university. Since Dr. Rao has become president, he has made a real effort, I think, to make community engagement by the university part of the strategic plan of the university.
Okay. So, madam,
Yes.
please explain the data scientist part as well as the passion for social enterprise and how it intersects with business.
I will, but can I go back just a step
Yes.
to the VCU question? Because I came at VCU from a slightly different perspective, but I think it's germane to the other questions you're asking me. Because when I first moved to Richmond, it wasn't my favorite city in the world. Really wasn't too excited about staying in Richmond. Stayed primarily for family, especially because I still work nationally and internationally. So I didn't really root into Richmond, I would say, until about 7 or 8 years ago. And there were several things that happened about 7 or 8 years ago in and around Richmond, but very much centered in the startup community, in the innovation sectors, and then as well bridging the gap between that strategic plan at VCU was activating and becoming rooted into the community. And so my roles at VCU are the innovator in residence, but I also work with Innovation Gateway, which looks at innovations that are coming through VCU, either at the student level, but more primarily at the professorial level, and looking at technologies that are coming out of the university and what can we do about it. And what does all that have to do with Richmond itself? Well, what it begins to do is put Richmond at the center of the conversation on which Eastern Seaboard, but more importantly, Southern city is actually going to become the pinnacle of innovation in this region. And I would say that right now we're contending with RTP down in Durham. We're looking square at Austin to see what they've been doing. We've been funneling activity from Northern Virginia because it's too embedded into the political and military sector there to really be able to harvest. And that really puts Richmond, especially with Norfolk right to the east of us, in a really great center, both geographically as well as from a leadership perspective, to really capitalize on becoming that city. And I think that VCU's intention of maintaining its relationships with its community, with all of the community members, meaning our communities that are predominantly Black, our communities that are increasingly Latino, as well as our communities that are seeking to revitalize versus regentrify, or gentrify rather than revitalize. I think that this is an important conversation that Richmond is having, that VCU is part of, that has made it compelling for me to be part of VCU.
Okay, so let's take a step back. So when you say, so revitalize versus gentrify, please explain, because I think sometimes folks don't understand the difference.
So, and I would say in broad strokes, and please, Camden,
Sure.
join in if I'm saying something that you disagree with, but I think in general, especially being a Black woman who grew up in the not so great parts of Maryland, DC area, the idea that we can take a plot of land that actually people are occupying, let's just start with the whole theme of that, that people are actually living in this geographic location, but we're just going to come in and we're going to dismiss the people that live there in order for us to put new infrastructure in place for a new group of people to actually profit from and live, quote unquote, better in. That is the act of gentrification, because you have now dismissed an entire generation, literally, of people away from their homes, their location, with no regard to where they're going to go. Or you have a resettlement plan. We act like that stopped back with the Native Americans, but that has been the trajectory of urbanization, suburbanization, or city planning for the whole of the America history as we know it. So when we talk about it in Richmond, I think that we have a really good discussion going on, can we actually revitalize, which means keep the people there and make them part of the move the city forward plan. So we don't dismiss them or devalue them or remove them from the factor, but we engage them in the plan to make that exact same geographic location. And I'm just going to use the word modernized right now, because we can add business terms like profitability and future city and all those kind of things. But really, we just want to move them to the modern, like, conveniences that we're trying to all experience.
So, folks, the voices you're listening to are Vida Williams and Camden Whitehead. You're talking about, from the business standpoint and social side of how things are working with Richmond and the vision of it. The idea of the program is to give you what the landscape looks like from a business standpoint and how these tie. And this is a business show. We're not here talking about so much of the market and all those things, but the glue in the fabric of how business intersects with the community. Mr. Henry is giving me the 30-second mark. So, folks, we got to go away and take her some bills. Make sure that you support the sponsors, because one of the things about this program is that that's how we get the word out there. So we bring in excellent speakers, and we're able to do that because of the great folks who are sponsoring. So with that, we'll be back.
I can't begin to tell you how Premier Bank helps simplify my busy life. Premier's mobile banking app gives me 24/7 access to my accounts and check deposit with my phone. With Secure Lock equipped, I have a tool that gives me complete control over my debit card. I can receive instant alerts, set spending limits, turn card on and off, and even control where it can be used. And Premier's People Pay lets me send someone money without writing a check. Premier products and Premier service from Premier Bank. Member FDIC.
Starting a business can be exciting, but did you know you need business insurance? Have you started a business and aren't sure if you have the right coverages? The Insurance Lady Consulting Firm makes sure we educate our clients on the products and services needed to protect your brand, contracts, and your clients. To better serve you, our firm offers tailored coverages and a variety of business consultations. We are a small woman and minority insurance firm that offers professional and general liability, commercial auto, workman's compensation, and much more. Call us today at 888-784-9980 and follow us on Instagram and Facebook as The Insurance Lady, LADI.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jimmy Stump with Stump's Pick and Pint. We're located on the corner of 2nd Street and 119 East Lee. We specialize in slow-cooked meats, handmade sides, and homemade desserts. Stop by. Let us take great care of you. You can find us on Facebook at Stump's Pick and Pint, or you can give us a call, 804-477-3208. We look forward to taking care of you soon.
Do you know someone who's received a traffic ticket for speeding or any other moving violation? Maybe you know someone who's failed the DMV learner's permit test 3 times, or someone who is ready to earn their license back. Maybe this person is you. Here at A Metropolitan Driving School, we offer driver education, behind the wheel, and so much more. Give us a call and we'll get you on track. A Metropolitan Driving School, where driving and independence meet the road. Visit us at ametropolitandrivingschool.com or dial 804-329-3298. Mention this ad to receive 10% off of any service of $100 or more.
Did you know embroidery is an easy, low-cost way to market your business? Let Godmama Wear LLC assist you with your custom logo embroidery needs. Whether you need shirts, hats, or yoga mats, Godmama Wear can embroider various items. Visit us online at www.godmamawear.com. That's www.godmamawear.com. Let's talk soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike. The time is 1:23. The station is WNTW The Answer. It's 92.7 FM, 820 AM. This is not your father's talk station. Just like to give the station a shout out, appreciation for putting us on here with some of the views and some of the ideas and information that I have, maybe a little different. So if you have any questions or would like to chime in, hey, please give us a call. Mr. Henry is waiting for your call. The number is 804-454-1366. The conversation here that we're having with Vida Williams and Camden Whitehead is about the view of Richmond, how Richmond and VCU plays a part in it. So, Camden, your day job, you are an architect by trade.
I'm an architect, yes.
Okay, so how do you introduce that into the idea of getting and working with VCU, the mob? And please explain to folks what the mob is. We can start right there.
Well, the Mob Studio is a combination of VCU's 3 design departments, graphic design, interior design, fashion design. We put those students together to work on projects in the community. And they work with professional volunteers, practitioners, who give them feedback and assistance on their design proposals. And they work with a client, someone in the Richmond community. Those clients are sometimes individuals, maybe a startup business. We worked with an ice cream shop owner to help him plan his interior spaces and develop his graphic design packages. So we work with neighborhoods, we work with civic organizations to basically give them design assistance, give them ideas, in a way help them wonder about what their place or space or graphics could be in the city. So we work with Storefront. Storefront is our link really into the city and into the city's neighborhoods, and so that they have developed a trust with a large number of Richmond neighborhoods, and it allows our students to get involved in places in the city where we would never be able to find acceptance or avenues in otherwise.
And I'd like to give a shout out to Kelly Lemon for bringing you guys to my attention, because when we did my shameless plug here for RVA Swag Central, which is my TV show, it comes on CW Richmond at 5 a.m. on Fridays. That is a shameless plug. But Kelly, when we asked her how she got to the space in Jackson Ward, she definitely mentioned you guys as one of the real players in helping make that happen, and just like to shout her out and say thank you. So you're giving students the opportunity to work in real world applications to do what they do, and working with community groups. Right.
And the other really wonderful thing that happens is that in the past, typically our students would get their degrees and they would move to a city, a larger city with a larger design community. What we're starting to find is, as we're making our students familiar with the city, they're realizing, I can stay here after graduation. So we already have a number of students who've set up practices in the city. They obviously go out and work for other firms in the city, but we feel like we're creating a much more vibrant design community in the city.
And so how can people who want to get involved with you and engage with both sides of the house that you work with, how do people find you and get started in that process?
Well, if someone is seeking design assistance, what they would do is go to storefrontrichmond.org, and there is a button you can push that says design session. And you will get a form there that you can fill out where you can describe your project, design what you think you need, and that will be handled by staff at Storefront, and they will either pair that person or group with a design professional volunteer, or if it's a project that seems appropriate for the Mob Studio, they will put that on a list that we will vet at the beginning of each semester.
Okay. So since this is a business show, tell us about Sadler and Whitehead. What do you guys do? Who are you? And so folks get to know.
Sure. Sadler and Whitehead is a tiny architectural firm. It's run by my wife, Mimi Sadler, and myself. We have 3 employees right now. Most of our work, I would say 95% of our work, is providing consultation to developers and architects and localities who are looking to take advantage of the states and federal government's investment tax credit program for rehabilitating older buildings. So most all of what my wife does is provide consulting services to help people get through those regulations. It's a very complicated program, but it provides an incredible amount of resources to developers, owners who are rehabilitating older buildings.
Weren't you written up about that in the magazine?
We were just recently written up in the Richmond Times-Dispatch about our house, but it mentioned that part of our work.
See, folks, we get the best and the brightest here. So the time is 1:29. We have to go away and pay some bills here. We're going to SRN News, which is the break at the bottom of the hour. We shall return in just a little bit. I'd just like to thank Camden Whitehead, Vida Williams for coming in. And what we'll do is we'll see you on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike, RVA. This is the premier business radio show in Richmond, Virginia. We're coming to you live and direct from Chester, that hotbed of business activity. So with us today, we have on the program Vida Williams, who's going to talk to us a little bit about her experiences being a TEDx speaker and a social entrepreneur, world traveler, and a woman who understands things about how Richmond works. Camden Whitehead, who was just telling us about revitalizing a home that was featured in Richmond Magazine. Congratulations on that. So, folks, we talked about VCU. What's the change when you hear students talking? We always talk about the brain drain and the magnet coming in. What's the magnet now when you talk about students? Before, people would always worry about people leaving. What's the word in, I guess, in the academia, when you look at how students are doing coming to Richmond and not leaving because Richmond has turned into a place to stay?
I think from my perspective, and I kind of back away from being a professor because there are people who have been lifelong professors, and I really have just been having fun for a few semesters.
It's like me being a radio host. Huh?
Yeah, I love it. I love the students, but I'm not an academic in the traditional sense. That being said, because I'm not an academic in the traditional sense, I get to have a really wide and loose license with what I'm able to do in my class, especially because I teach innovation concepts. And everybody who says that is like, what is that? And I'm like, basically, we're going to think out of the box and make some cool shit.
That's exactly why.
So because that's the perspective that I have of these students coming through, and the Da Vinci is a combination of engineering students, art students, and business students. So I get a really cool mix of youth who are trying to change the world tomorrow. And if I would say, what does that have to do with Richmond? Is Richmond has no choice but to change and evolve because the students that are coming through are going to demand it, and they're not leaving. The students that at least I have are trying to root into Richmond because it's an easy place to be, because there's great access to information, to new ideas, to good food and beer, which always works for students.
Yes, it does.
But it's just an easy place for them to root in at that age. And they're coming out with such a keen impression that it's their job, great anxiety, but keen impression that it's their job to kind of fix going forward in all of the ways of going forward. And I think that what we're going to find in Richmond over the next 5 years as these students stay is we're going to find our voice in that place of what does the world look like tomorrow? What does the United States look like tomorrow? And then more intimately, what do we look like tomorrow?
I would add to that I find that we have a large number of students who are both entrepreneurial but also just dedicated to community service. That as Vida said, that they see their job as fixing the city and fixing the country, and it's really heartening to see the optimism with which they approach things, the way they use technology in such a positive way, and I'm really confident and optimistic in these guys that they are going to be able to be the ones who make good things happen.
I think that the thing that was funny about that is in the business world, especially because that's where I am, there's a great deal of resistance to the youth coming out because we as I wouldn't say a Gen Xer because I'm not in the boomer X argument that's going on right now. Like I'm a Gen Xer, I'm just raising the kids. But I think there's a great deal of resistance to them coming out because we're unsure about their attention spans and other things that we're placing on them. I think a little bit from our perspective, these kids are coming out with great deal of intention. And that is something that I can't say when I was 20 that I was coming out of school with.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think they are, they're so well equipped, but they are, I've lost my track here, but go ahead.
When we try and look at, so now my son and my grandkids move in, and it's a 3-year-old.
Yeah,
kids are different these days.
They are.
I mean, the reasoning with so my kids are 34 and 36. You know, the raising them was different than your reasoning with the 3-year-old these days. I mean, and we want kids to sit down and we say, sit and don't do this thing. We all have multiple streams of activities coming to us, information. I tell people, I'm from Philly, my wife's from New York. So we moved out of Philly 20 miles to the suburbs. There were people who hadn't been to Philadelphia in 30 years.
Sure.
There was a clear difference between the kids in Philly and the kids in North Wales and Lansdale.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know. Now, every question ever thought of is right here.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we have to do is harness it. But when you see young people, they're looking at how can what I do, how can what I learn, how can what I invent make the world a better place. And so that's why I think when I do this show or the TV show, always trying to find what the cool things are. What are things that people are doing to sort of move the needle? And as teachers and professors and people who are there, they're pushing, saying, where we're saying, well, we can't do that. Or we never did it that way. And they're just pushing past that. And some of it's uncomfortable. Some of it is like, but other of it is just the unknown. Well, let's just go there and see what's there. So as older people, we sort of lay the groundwork. When you talk about technology and data, please explain to us what a data scientist is. That just sounds, it just sounds smart, and
It sounds a whole lot smarter than I think it actually
because we
is.
all know what the data part. People always talk about crunching data and getting the information from the data. Data tells us everything. So please explain
Well,
the mastery of that.
I think what a data science really is it's that we elucidate the information in the data that everyone is so quick to give up.
Yes, we do give it up.
Right. So what we do is we come in and we take all this, it's like being an alchemist. We take all of the elements in data and we bring it together and we reform it into information that's consumable, but also is something that one can react to that's yielding more data. So that's what data scientists do on large. Now, all of us have our own specialties. All of us have our things that we specialize in. And I would say as a person who grew up in the industry, so the industry of data is less than 20 years old. And so we are still forming ourselves and we're still understanding who we are and we're still removing ourselves from technology, right? Technology is our sister, but we're different, right? So it's like I have a little sister. And if you've ever seen the meme about the little sister being, like that, like our little sister, like she's
on the way there,
man. And they undergird and they give us the tools that we need to synthesize the data, but we're different. The data is something that lives in and of itself now with its own value and its own asset.
One of the great parts about this is I've run into some people who are doing some really cool thing. There's a woman over at Lantera Labs, Anisha Rao, and she talks about, the first time I met her, she said, they're talking about the power of data and the power of technology and what it can do. It's not ageist, it's not racist, it's not sexist. It can be, it's like who it's put in the hands of.
Right.
And so what they're trying to do is level the playing field by putting it in the hands of people who can use it and not just have it in the hands of a few who sort of can make it their own and use it against maybe the good of the people. And I think one of the things that the show tries to do is give a platform to people to come in and say how you see things, how you see Richmond, how you see what technology plays in it. So clearly you have an idea about the part that technology plays in society and evening of the playing field. The floor is yours, madam.
Well, and so I approach data very intimately. I think it's definitely a creative pursuit where a lot of people think it's a rational pursuit. And in short order, I have two factions of the work that I do. I'm a solution lead in data for Single Stone Consulting. So that is where I go to places like Capital One or USAA or other major data harvesters, and I work with them on the principles and the practices of data. But then I also work on the front lines with the people that I feel like need data practitioners the most. And so those would be people who are on the front lines. They're your people who are in social services, who are in nonprofits, who are working with the people. And that's because when you're given grant money, those grantors are now expecting you to be able to justify your existence and the quality of your services via data, but they never give these organizations enough money to actually hire the talent to tell the story in data. And so I lead a lot of workshops and I work very closely with a lot of agencies to, one, help them build their own capacities in data, and then two, teach them the mechanics and the practice of data just incrementally enough for it to be approachable and something that they can use immediately, but also to grow and scale from. And that's a practice that I don't know that we understand from an industry perspective how important that is. Because when we talk about data tomorrow and we talk about resource allocation via artificial intelligence, or when we talk about what does money look like post-currency, if we do not incorporate all of us in real world citizenry in the discussion, we will double down on biases in a way that could just totally wipe out a segment or a population from that perspective. And the example that I use for that is for anyone who's familiar with the Marvel Universe. When old boy was about to wipe out 50% of the universe's population because it was overpopulated, there was no algorithm that he was using more than 50%. So it was just straight, let the math do the math. So he didn't care whether you were a superhero or whether you were just a child. He was going to wipe you out. And he did 50% of the way. That seems fair until you realize it's not.
It's not fair.
And so you have to really glean the nuances in there. And I could use a whole bunch of real world examples, but I don't like it because then we get into political conversations about the rights and the wrongs. But the fact of the matter is the people who are harvesting data are on the front lines of manifesting those political, social, financial, economic decisions.
Is that because you can massage the data and display it and deliver it in a way that makes whomever you're delivering it to happy?
No, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. So it's not so much to make them happy, like, we all say.
Or justify.
It's justifying or validating an already existing. That's not really it. What it is a little bit more insidious and or neglectful. So for example, when Beauty.io first came out, they had a machine learning practice where they were determining whether the machine itself, the algorithms, could determine beauty agnostically. However, in the training data, so the training data would be all of the masses of data that they use to inform the machine learning algorithm about what the features of beauty are. You hanging with me, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
See, folks, wait, one second, folks. The voice you're listening to is Vida Williams. The program is On the Mic with Mike. It's WNTW 92.7, 820 AM. This is not what, this is school is in session and it's informative. Folks, we're bringing it to you because it is something that's interesting and trying to figure out what happens with the data when we look at our phone or we give up information so freely and it says, would you like this new app? And it says, brrr, and you say, I agree. You just gave the store away. We're talking to the lady who explains what the store is.
Yes.
So one second. We will be back in just a moment. We will be back, folks. We got to pay some bills. Thank you.
Hi, do you struggle with forming the right words to draw on your target audience? Are you stuck on page 1 of that manuscript? Do you need an extra set of eyes to critique and edit your flyers, emails, or manuscripts? Do you need more time to do what you love within your business and life? If you answer yes to any of these questions, I would love to assist you. My name is Amanda Edie, and I am the literary enthusiast. I'm an editor, ghostwriter, proofreader, and creative assistant for small business owners and entrepreneurs. You can contact me today at www.amandaedie.com. Let me help you creatively change the world.
A Premier Bank home equity line of credit can open many doors for you. The door to a brand new kitchen, or the door to a shiny new car or SUV. Maybe the door to a college education for your kids. No matter what doors you want to open, Premier Bank can help with great rates and money to lend to qualified borrowers. Call or visit your nearest Premier Bank office to learn more. Premier Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Subject to credit approval and qualifying credit score.
Premier Bank.
This is Sean Nicholson with SMN Square Incorporated, providing the building blocks for success and sustainability in your business. We currently own and operate a co-working executive office and training facility called The Hub, helping you in business, located in Midlothian, Virginia, inside the Victorian Square Shopping Center. For more about us and what we do, please log on to www.smnsquare.com. That's smnsquare.com. Or you can find us on all social media platforms, SMN Square.
Yeah, this is Big Herm from Big Herm's Kitchen and Catering. We're located on the heart of Jackson Ward on 315 North 2nd Street, Richmond, Virginia. We're open Monday through Friday, 11 to 6, takeout and delivery, but we also cater anytime. We deliver all types and cater all types of events from graduations to weddings. Please check us out at bighermscatering.com or call us directly, 804-922-3693 for any of your catering needs.
Need affordable auto insurance? What about an SR22 or FR44? Tired of paying for auto and renter coverages that you don't quite understand? Running a business and worried about if your contracts, products, services, and clients are protected? Well, here at the Insurance Lady Consulting Firm, we make sure you never have to go through that. We educate clients on the coverages needed to protect everything in your world. We're a small women and minority-owned insurance firm that specializes in business insurance and offers auto, home, life, motorcycle, and even pet insurance. Call us today at 888-784-9980 and follow us on Facebook and Instagram as the Insurance Lady, LADI.
Before and after, the salon has been active in the Richmond, Virginia community, providing hairstyling services for over 10 years. Before and After is located in downtown Richmond at 1917 West Carey Street. Specializing in weaves, extensions, and growing healthy hair, Before and After provides a full suite of hair care services. Expert stylists Michelle Smith and Alicia Clark are well trained to meet your styling needs at Before and After the Salon.
Welcome back to On the Mic with Mike. The station is 92.7 FM, 820 AM. Here with Camden Whitehead, Vida Williams, talking about all things Richmond, VCU, technology, and how it all intersects. So, folks, give me an idea of what you think the next 10 years will look like with Richmond, say from a technology, from a business standpoint, and what the landscape of the city will look like, say from a business and community culture standpoint.
I'm a dinosaur.
Okay.
I still draw with a pencil. My kids all draw with computers. So I still talk to them about principles of design. I still talk to them about aspects of design that in a way supersede technology. On the other hand, they are connected to it. It obviously shapes how they think. Where are we going to be in 10 years? Hopefully further along technologically, but also much further along in terms of how we incorporate that into our daily existence, into our values, into the things that guide our decisions. What I see is the biggest difficulty with my students is that they will get a program that allows them to draw very easily, but then sometimes they don't realize that the program is making all the decisions for them. And they get a drawing that's very much like the guy next to them and the guy next to them, and their individuality is lost in that drawing. So really the designer of the drawing is just as much the software manufacturer as it is the student. So what I encourage my students to do is still draw with a pencil. So in a way, it's a check. It's a check that their heads are screwed on right, that they are realizing the decisions they make with a pencil, and that they can make those decisions with a computer-assisted drawing program.
And once again, please let folks know how they can find you and your organization.
They can go to storefrontrichmond.org, and they can apply on that website for design assistance.
Okay. Ms. Williams.
I think for me, I think we're going to wind up seeing us become more conscious and aware of how we're incorporating technology. I think it's fairly ubiquitous at this point, and I think that we have gotten past, especially this upcoming generation, the mystique of technology for technology's sake. And I think that we're going to have to start really intentionally deciding where the boundaries of real world versus technological virtual worlds are. I think that's a gray area, however. And I think when we think about the workplace and the work for tomorrow, I think that's going to be it's going to have to be a more intentional progress than what we've experienced over the past decade.
One of the things that's refreshing that when I hear you speak, it's not so much the world's on fire and, this freight train is rolling down the track.
Mm-mm.
And it's because people think that, wow, it's so new and different. And it's not,
It's not.
And people know how to navigate the things the same way we learned how to navigate things in the 70s.
Mhm.
And it was going to be end of the world with Y2K. And we woke up and okay, the world didn't end.
That was funny.
We just spent a lot of money, but
And then the tech bust happened.
Exactly. So it's like, okay. But the idea of younger folks, and I think one of the things that what scares older people are young folks driving a lot of the technology, and with the technology comes the power and all those things. And so but with you talking, it's like, it's not so much that the world's on fire. We can harness it and use the energy with it.
We have to remember that we created it, right? Like there's a whole ownership accountability here. We created it. And the other thing is, I think we're not in dialogue intergenerationally. And this is every generation. I mean, just, remember our generation before us and the generation before us. They're always afraid of the generation coming after them. But in this particular case, the language is different. I think the two generations are speaking literally different languages because we've created that technological language. But it goes back to the fact that we own these products that we're creating. And it's about us being intentional about how we're deploying them here on out. And I would say that, one, the kids that I'm teaching are less likely to adopt social media than we are.
Yeah.
Like that's the first thing that I think is a misunderstanding. There's 50% of my students in a class of 20 that only use social media to communicate en masse or in groups. But they don't use social media to track their own selves and to live out loud. So that's the first misunderstanding that we need to come to. So the evolution, social media was new, it was exciting, it was great, everybody was in it. But now that it is ubiquitous and it exists, the kids have a better understanding of how to engage with it. It's not new to them.
And because there's so many choices in social media now,
Yes.
they're being much more intentional about what they tie into
Yes.
and how they do that.
Time management for them is becoming better. And the ownership of the technology is becoming heightened. They are creating the next generations of all of these things. So they're putting the controls in place. The other thing is we have great ecological things that we have to solve. So the greatest opportunity we have with all of these same infrastructures that everybody wants to be afraid of is actually solving for those problems. And so if we try to extract that or be afraid of that now, then we might as well go ahead and count ourselves as a species that no longer exists, because the impending doom requires creative thought and the use of innovative technologies in order to resolve them.
And you say you do business internationally. What's the world think of America business and technology wide at this moment?
I mean, I think it's bifurcated. I think that we are not the world leaders per se that we think we are. I mean, there's a great deal of technological innovation coming out of the Asian countries. There's a great deal of technological innovation, especially coming out of the Middle East with Israel. Israel is leading the vanguard on security and stuff like that. But the United States has a top rung seat in declaring what we're going to be. I think it's becoming equally more competitive, but also more collaborative. And that collaboration is what is driving us. I don't know from my perspective that we're necessarily going to be by ourselves in 15 years. I think China and the United States and Israel, and quite frankly, what's going on in Africa right now that nobody is seemingly watching, all of those places, India, are harvesting new ways of using technology to do new stuff.
Cool. And what part do the women play and training girls to go down that road as far as STEM goes? What part do the women play in?
Dude, I'm here.
Yes.
Period. Hard stop. Like, what?
Folks, that was a drop the mic moment. I was asking that for her to say, sure, women have a seat at the table and we're setting the table for the, no, it's like, Mike, I'm here. You came and found me.
Exactly.
Okay. So, folks, the voice you're listening to is Vida Williams, and that was just Schools Was in Session. The station is 92.7. The program's On the Mic with Mike. We're here for a couple more minutes with Camden Whitehead. So, tell us your background and from a training standpoint. You went to VCU?
No, I went to Abrick College for undergraduate. That's in Danville. Majored in art, and then went into a 3-year master's program at Virginia Tech in architecture.
Okay. So, folks, we'd just like to say thank you for joining us. Catch us next week. We have a new time. We outgrew the 2 o'clock time slot, and thanks to you guys for following the program. Program's On the Mic with Mike. It's 92.7. My other programs were RVA Swag Central, which comes on CW Richmond. This past week, we did Sue's Tech Kitchen, as well as N01 Fire. That was a program that we did for them. A couple weeks ago, we were at the American Civil War Museum. So the program's innovative. Just like to say thank you for tuning in. Shout out to the caregivers and my wife, who's taking care of the grandkids. Baby, I'm on the way to help out. That's always have to put that in there because I'm on the way home to help. Just like to thank the sponsors for the show. Please, folks, make sure you support the sponsors. Nicole Reed, Best in the Business. And with that, we'd like to say we're out and see you next week. Thanks to Vida and the Camden for being on the program. Thanks, folks. Take care.